Hello music fans, welcome to the Death by Unicorn channel, and welcome to an episode of my segment called What's New 2023, where I talk about new releases that came out in the metal, rock, and progressive worlds of music. And this week I'm going to talk about 4 albums, and I'll talk about them in my order of preference, starting with Thrice and their album The Artist in the Ambulance Revisited. This is a post-hardcore album. It's Thrice's 12th album, but it's just a re-recording of their 3rd album from 2003. I'm not sure how I feel about that because their 2003 album is my favorite album they ever made, and they just re-recorded the same songs again, but the harsh vocals have gotten less powerful. They toned down the screams a bit. It's a bit of a softer production and softer performances than before. There still are some harsh vocals, but they're slightly softer, less edgy versions of the previous, more raw, intense hardcore metal performances on the original. The production's a bit better on this version. It sounds a bit more like Thrice. It's got a bit more of their signature sound than the older version of this album. The original version had more of a metal production that I heard that Thrice didn't like, because I think maybe the producer they were working with kind of lumped them into the metalcore type of production, but they were never really that. They were kind of more on the post-hardcore, screamo punk beginnings, and then they evolved into more of an alternative rock, hard rock, with like some of those post-hardcore influences still remaining. They never really were a metal band. Maybe that's why they decided to re-record this. But even the clean vocal performances, I think they're a bit better on the original. The instrumental performances on this version are all great, but they were great on the original as well. The only really interesting difference is they changed some of the vocal melodies slightly. They also brought in some interesting collaborators on different tracks. But if I want to hear these songs, I'll likely stick to the original, even though it's still interesting to hear, and it's still my favorite listen of the past week anyways. Second album I'm going to talk about is by the band Xandria, Xandria, and the album's called The Wonders Still Awaiting. This is symphonic power metal, and it's the 8th album by this German female-fronted band. Really powerful vocals. If you like those types of powerful female power metal vocals, you'll like this. It ended up being better than I expected. I heard the singles and I kind of threw this on my list of albums to check out, thinking, oh, maybe it'll be okay. But yeah, it was pretty good. And next I'm going to talk about the Winery Dogs and their album 3. This is hard rock with some blues influences in there. It's their 3rd album. They're an American supergroup that features Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater fame, who also plays with many other bands like Transatlantic, Liquid Tension Experiment, Sons of Apollo, etc. He's on drums, and they have Billy Sheehan on bass, and he's played with Steve Vai, David Lee Roth, and more. And they have Richie Kotzen on guitar, who's played in Poison and other groups. I prefer the more progressive projects that Mike Portnoy does over this project, but I like to listen to anything with his great drumming on it. And the guitar playing from Richie on this album is amazing. Lots of shredding solos to melt your face. The music itself is more for people who maybe like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Van Halen, as it's kind of a mix of those types of classic rock band, power trios, a bit of a hard rock, some guitar shredding and virtuosity in there, but it's not really progressive like most of the other projects that Mike Portnoy does. Still decent and worth checking out if you're a fan of Mike Portnoy's and any of the other members. And lastly, the last album that I checked out that came out this week was a little bit outside of my genre wheelhouse. It was Shania Twain with Queen of Me, and this is pop country. It's the 6th album by this Canadian icon, and I usually strongly dislike pop country. Shania Twain is one of the few exceptions to that, and it's probably a bit of nostalgia because I grew up hearing her music, and she's from Timmins, Ontario, where I used to live. But I also truly think she makes some of the most undeniably catchy pop country, and it's not as cheesy, cliche, and as annoying as most of the male artists in that genre, who I can't really stand. Um, this album was okay, but it didn't really reach the heights of her prior work, in my opinion. However, for people who are huge fans of Shania Twain, I think they'll enjoy this. If you don't really like, if you've heard her previous stuff and you don't like it, you probably won't like this either. So it's not gonna change any minds. But yeah, it'll be one that people who like Shania will like it, and people who don't will not. And that's it for this week. Until next time, peace out.